Billy D's right here. Welcome to the podcast update for YouTube and Facebook. If you're new to this, awesome. I'm very glad that you are here. We started the YouTube channel and the Facebook channel a couple months ago. Obviously, we're not necessarily trying to cultivate an audience on YouTube for the podcast, but we are giving some more content to people who are fans of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, on down the line. They have curiosity about some behind-the-scenes stuff, and they want to hear latest updates. And I'm really happy that there's people who are interested in that, so welcome. Busy week this week on the Billy D's podcast. First of all, Bill Spencer. He is the author of Uranus is Always Funny, and gets a chuckle out of me. Now, he is on our podcast this week, Monday, today. That podcast episode debuted. This is for HO Press, Shorehouse Books, obviously a humor book. Bill is a great guy. Do check out that episode. And then this coming Thursday, on Thursday, the interview with Will 3 will be available, obviously on all of our networks and also here on YouTube. He's one of the few interviews we've done lately where we've actually been able to have video on both sides of the interview. And Will is on video, Will 3. He is the author of Hartley Law, again, also for HO Press, Shorehouse Books. And he gives some insights into his creative technique and how he writes. And actually, both these guys do. So if you're one of these people that enjoys the creative process, maybe you're a writer yourself or just your interest as a reader. These guys have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Do check them out. That's on the podcast this week. Questions do come in, and lately we've been asked about doing audiobooks, that is actually creating them. And in the past, I've been kind of hesitant because it's a lot of work. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's easy, you just read a book. There's a lot of reading involved there. Hours, if you've ever sat down to read to somebody, you know how quickly you can get tired. Imagine reading for hours on end, making sure it's absolutely perfect, talking all the quoted character parts in character, and, cleaning the audio up, getting rid of the mouth sounds and all of the other stuff. It's a lot of work. But it's come to my attention, there's only so many companies that are doing this well, and this is a big market. Last year, audiobooks accounted for something like $1 billion. I'm not sure if it was last year, but recently there was a period of a year or two where audiobooks accounted for something like $1 billion in book sales. And there's a lot of people chasing that business, but there's only a few that do it well. Voice acting is harder than it sounds. So obviously we're equipped to do that here. I've done voiceovers for years. It's something, since the business is coming to me at this point, why not take it? That's kind of my feeling. So more information on that to come. Generally speaking, audiobooks are a real possibility here at the Billy D's podcast. Next question. I get this all the time. Do we charge for guests? There is to be a guest on the show, there is a detailed video, as detailed as it can be, because it's always a case-by-case basis, but there is a video on our YouTube channel that goes through some of the cases of when we charge and when we don't. Basically, it amounts to this. For a casual person to come on the program, and I say a casual guest, meaning you're just going to come on and shoot the stuff with us, right? And whether that be about your book or your music or whatever it is that you've done, your blog, whatever, there's generally not a charge for that. Okay, we do want our guests to bring some value in terms of entertainment or information to the audience, but other than that, to be a casual guest, what we'll term as a casual guest, there's no charge. Where we get into charging more often, far more often, is when we get into an area that is production work. So, for example, if we are producing a podcast on behalf of another entity, if we are essentially producing an infomercial, if this podcast is going to be rebranded. I'm here on behalf of XYZ Company. This podcast is going to be actually hosted. I'm not talking about a link, but actually hosted on another company's website or on their podcast channels and so on and so forth. Yes, that's production work. We do charge for that. As a matter of fact, that's why we're here. We recently produced a number of commercials that aired on local radio here, and we currently produce 2 other podcasts that are, production work that we do. So yes, I mean, that's a big part of what we do here. So casual guest, probably not. If you expect us to do a lot of research for you and review everything you've ever done in your bio and everything, well, that's another story. But presumably you got the gist on that. Live podcast, that's another thing that we get asked about. And doing them via YouTube and Facebook is a possibility. I would rather do a live podcast through podcasting channels, whether it be Spreaker or something else. There's a discipline that comes with live that I appreciate. You can't redo live, you can't edit live, and that's great. There's also an energy that comes with live, and that is fantastic as well. But on the practical side of things, people generally listen to podcasts when it's convenient. So to get a large audience to come in to your live podcast at a given time on a given day, if your answer is, well, if they miss it, they can catch the replay. Well, if most of your audience is catching the replay, then why put yourself through the task of all the technical problems and everything else that goes with it just to be live? You might as well just produce it. And what I encounter a lot is a lot of the guests that we have on this program do not want to be live. That's the first thing they say. We're not doing this live, are we? So I'm kind of tepid on live, maybe once in a while. And I've talked about this before, Monday nights, doing a live podcast, kind of just commentary or something like that. That we will do from time to time. Just follow our Twitter account, which is at Billy D's on Twitter. That's kind of our social media home. And here again, we're new to Facebook. We're also making these types of announcements on the Billy D's podcast on Facebook. And, of course, monitor the YouTube channel as well. If you have any questions or anything that pertains to the production work that we do here, obviously you can send me a direct message on Facebook. And if nothing else, just go to our company website, which is perfectmediaprods.com, and you can send an email right through the website. And we'll try and answer your questions as best we can. I'm Billy D's. That's the update for this week. And don't forget, great podcast this week. Right now running is Bill Spencer. Uranus is always funny. And then Thursday available will be the interview with Will 3 and Hartley Law for HO Press and Shorehouse Books. I'm Billy D's from the Billy D's podcast. Have a great week.